What about us? Yes, what about us? As you can see, I'm wearing the white rose as a Me Too victim. I have put out some information on that. But this is what I want to talk about today is what about us? Seniors, especially seniors, women and people, and the most vulnerable are women and the most vulnerable are seniors, but men also have been a victim of this. Being robbed legally of their homes, property, victims of fraud, embezzlement, in a system in Canada that makes it legal. Yes, what about us? This is an open letter to all members of Parliament. Hashtag what about us? And if there are any victims out there, I would ask you to please share your stories. Go on my website, which I will type on the YouTube video, and share your stories. Go public. There's hundreds of thousands of us over the last 100 years, and nobody hears about us. And this is an open letter to all members of Parliament, both provincial and federal. What about us? At 76, I'm handicapped with Parkinsonism, crippling, paralyzing attacks, 70 years. Yet despite all that, I was very successful in business and investments for 23 years until my disease and medical negligence destroyed my life. And I lost everything, my home, and I became homeless, sleeping in my car, researching my disease, going from here to New York and back. Yes, and I fought for human rights for children, for victims of rape, for men who were being robbed of their spousal rights. All religions, all cultures, all races, believing that someday I would see democracy in Canada. I had an opportunity in New York to be published, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And I turned them down to come back to Canada, really believing that I could do this. Instead, Mother and I wound up betrayed, robbed of our home, property rights, victims of fraud, embezzlement, and state funds, and all made legal by secret filing on property in Canada, only in Canada. Anyone can put their name onto your home and properties, sever joint tenancy, file a mortgage, all in secret. There is no legal protection, not one word of protection for any registered ownership in any province in Canada except for Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. Ontario is by far the worst. The executor on your will in Ontario after your death has the right to register and take title ownership to all your properties. Secret filing is a criminal law created by the dictatorship of the Romans 2,000 years ago for the sole purpose of stealing property without the registered owner even having the right to notification. French law is never allowed for that. England did until 1925 because they followed Roman law. But all other civilized modern countries, including the United States and Europe, have banned secret filing because its purpose is only to serve the criminal. Secret filing promotes, condones, and makes legal fraud and property theft. I was fool enough to take my inheritance, my savings, and my mother had already lost everything, to think I could get basic human democratic rights, to be notified of any change on title to real property through our court system. I was such an idiot. And I'm not going to go into those details, how the lawyer betrayed me. I don't know if he meant to con me right from the beginning or if he just went insane on me in the end. But either way, he left me completely defenseless. I have a new lawyer and he told me the truth. There isn't any way that I, as an individual in court, can fight such a law. It's only the members of Parliament who have that right and the Attorney General. Well, I wrote to you all and you all ignored me and you all rejected me and I didn't even get a so much kiss my ass reply. I got nothing. Yes, this is a court system so corrupt that I not only lost my home and millions in property and investments over the years, but the legal costs of over $100,000 during a 17-year battle for our property rights. I'm completely betrayed, as do all victims in Canada, by a legal system that left me defeated with nothing. As members of Parliament, you owe Canadians basic democratic rights, secret filing ban, and a law that demands notification in writing to all legal registered owners to any change on title to real property. Now, I don't expect anyone in Ontario to ever give us the democratic spousal protection and rights that only Saskatchewan has, but at the very least, give registered owners the right to some protection, notification in writing at the very least, so they can take some steps to protect themselves from being robbed. No one should be allowed to sever joint tenancy, transfer title, put their name on any property, file a mortgage, or make any changes to title on your properties whatsoever without a simple right of notification in writing to all registered owners first. Secret filing is a law designed only for the benefit of the criminal. Yes, it promotes fraud, property theft, spousal rights robbed, and embezzlement. Saskatchewan is the only province that makes it impossible for such heinous crimes, because spousal rights are so protected that you can't even, notification isn't good enough. You've got to get their consent, or you file for separation or divorce in court and the judge will decide. But yes, they are fully protected. You can't, it's not even possible to commit such a crime in Saskatchewan. But in every other province, notification is required in Alberta and Manitoba, but in every other province, secret filing is legal. And every lawyer thinks it's perfectly okay, because that's not their job. It's not their job. Democratic rights is not their job. It's the government's job. It's your job, you the public, to care. When you vote, vote for somebody that cares about your democratic rights. And you're going to be hard-pressed to find anybody like that in Canada, because I've been at it for 66 years and I've yet to find one member of Parliament that even lift a finger to help me to get democratic rights. Well, that's not true. One woman in I won't say her name, she's in a small village, and she has neither the funds or the expertise or the power to even attempt it. I would like to get a hold of Carolyn Mulrooney if she really wants a cause. Here's one. You're a lawyer. You should be able to find a way. Of course, you're not a member of Parliament, so that won't work either. Here are some of the victims that are afraid to go public, and I'm going to try to speak on their behalf. I'm wearing purple to honor my mother, who was born in February and died in February, supposedly of heart failure, but she didn't just die of heart failure. She died of a broken heart, betrayed by the country she loved and thought she had democratic rights. And she went to her death having lost everything. How would you like to live with a violent, abusive spouse 61 years and 18 years after their death discover you do not even own the matrimonial home you've lived in all those years? A veteran of 3 wars at 92 discovered his nephew had title on his home, and he died in a nursing care facility, losing title to his home. An Ontario millionaire died, and his heirs lost their inheritance. They never knew why. Well, I can tell you why. Because after his death in Ontario, the executor took title ownership to all the properties, sold, and skipped, moved to parts unknown. They didn't even bother going to court. Why would they? They'd have to make public. And he was a family member. You see, it's not always just a stranger. But even in a stranger, the legal system doesn't give you any options. A Hamilton, Ontario man got a 4-year engineering contract out of town. He gave his house key to a lady friend to check on it while away. When he returned 4 years later, discovered she had registered her name on title to his home in secret. No notification. His lawyer had advised him that the court costs of fighting it would exceed the value, so he was forced to pay her half the market value to get her name off title and regain his home. Fortunately, he had made enough money that he could afford to do that. Not everyone can. An elderly, gentle man, widower of many years, developed a friendship with a woman for someone just to go to a movie or to have dinner with. Not a lover, but simply a companionship friend who did not live with him. In his will, he left his home to his son, a construction laborer, uneducated, just a hard-working slob, married with 3 young children, renting, unable to afford a home. When the gentleman, his father, died, his son's lawyer discovered the woman was on title in secret without anyone's knowledge. The lawyer demanded $50,000 cash up front, or it was not worth his time to fight her in court. The son, just a poor uneducated worker, not having that kind of money, told me he was forced to abandon it, and he continues to live with his wife and children in a rental unit. That lawyer, of course, was a mercenary jerk. He could have at least filed for his father's half title, which would only cost a couple of $100 in court. No, what a creep. Or even on contingency, because at least the property was worth at least $80,000. So he would have gotten $30,000 at least, something. But no, he got nothing. A middle-aged woman, single mother who worked 2 jobs to raise her children. Somebody I know personally. And again, I can't give you their names. They don't want it published, but I'm telling you their stories. I'm trying to be the voice. What about us? People like us. And I'm wearing purple in honor of What About Us. Because mainly they're seniors. And there's a kind of death that goes with losing your home. Something inside you dies. So she worked 30 years, raised her children, paid the mortgage off. And after her children were all on her own, she was lonely and living alone. She began to date a very charming man. By the time he got through with her, he had in secret his name on title to her home, put a mortgage for above its market value, and disappeared one day for parts unknown. She lost her home and is now living in subsidized housing, still cleaning houses at 75 to survive. Now, I happen to know of at least 5 other women in similar circumstances who all lost their home to some guy. And one is not in subsidized housing, the rest all are. And they lost everything. Some lost it to their husbands. Some lost it to their son. Some lost it to their nephew. Some lost it to a total stranger, as she did. So many people, victims of secret filing, but they have no voice, and their plight is trapped in a corrupt court system designed for the criminal that makes them victims of fraud made legal by secret filing. And the media itself ignores their pleas, begging for help, as they did me and my mother 17 years. 2005, over 100 Toronto area homeowners discovered that a criminal has put mortgages on their homes illegally without their knowledge, in secret, forged their names. Did the Ontario government consider banning secret filing to stop such crimes? No. Instead, they decided the mortgages to the banks were legal. And the companies and the insurance companies had to pay off the mortgages. Of course, our insurance companies got their money back by increasing their fees. The homeowners regained title to their homes, but the criminals were never charged or found guilty of fraud. They left the country with a few $1,000,000. Fraud is rampant, made legal by secret filing. Cruel, sociopathic, abusive spouses like my father, just for the sheer pleasure of knowing after he dies his spouse will not have title to the matrimonial home, will face years in court after he dies. He does it just for the pure sadistic pleasure. Seniors, being most vulnerable, discover a loved one or a friend has stolen all they own facing years in a lengthy court battle in a corrupt system that depletes your life savings and legal costs, and you have no chance of ever recovering your losses. Doomed to become homeless as I did. Is that the kind of democratic society you want for your children? Well, I'm one of the lucky ones. Dan McIsaac, of 34 years now, I met him in AA, and I'm sober 34 years. He went back out a couple of times, I think, and he's sober now almost 10 years. He rescued me. He gave up his living room and a sauna room and turned it into a closet. He got rid of his gymnasium in the living room to store my files and gave up the master bedroom for me so I have a room. I mean, I'm jammed to the ceilings, and I gave away as much as I could. I gave away my mother's clothes, jewelry, furs, furniture, a 4-bedroom house, and I'm in one room. No, I'm not complaining about that. But I am complaining that none of that should have happened. I should be living in a home of my choice. I deserve that. I've worked hard. I spent 17 years rescuing, well, my whole life rescuing my mother. I gave up a home in Wasaga Beach to rescue her from abject poverty and took care of her until the day she died. And I gave her an extra 17 years of good life because I took very good care of her with Dan's help. But that doesn't change the fact that she was robbed. That doesn't change the fact that I was robbed. That doesn't change what happened to the war veteran and all those hundreds of thousands of people over the last 100 years, because this law is criminal. Please, members of parliament, federal, provincial, stop this violation of basic human rights and ban secret filing on real property. It is banned in every other civilized modern country but Canada. Shame on you. Shame on Canada for doing this to people. How dare you call yourself a democracy? Now, victims of secret filing in this article refuse to go public. Typical as all victims, they're ashamed. Somehow it's their fault. They're humiliated. They don't want people to know. So I can't release the names of the ones that I do know. And several, I asked them, don't even tell me your name, just tell me your story. But I'm hoping that someday they'll come forward and that someday there will be democracy in Canada. Because all these people are being robbed of the basic, simple human rights to be notified. At least if you're notified, it doesn't change the fraud, but you have a chance to fight it without spending the rest of your life in court like I did. My personal documents and the proof of my personal and mother's story is already on www.seniors-rightsforall.com. And in honor of all those victims, I am begging you people, please share this story. Expose to the world what Canada is doing to seniors. Some of them are robbed of their homes by social workers who lie to them and say you have to sell your home immediately because you're going to have to go into a residence. Well, in Ontario, a residence is $3,000 to $4,000 a month. And you don't get any care. You have to take care of yourself. You only have a room and board. You're paying $3,000 to $4,000 a month for room and board. And then when my mother was dying, the social worker lied to us and told her that we had to do that. So if I had listened, I would have spent $4,000 to put my mother into a place, and within 3 weeks, she would have been transferred to the hospital and she would have died. Because I have been